The coronavirus is a big topic. And I said to you on yesterday, stay away from airports. And I don't know if I gave as much information about airports because there's so many people coming from so many different places, touching handrails, touching people, tucking luggage, and then getting on airplanes and being in hermetically sealed buildings. Going back in the 80s, they had built thing called sick buildings because there was no ventilation. The air conditioning system and the heating system just kept recycling the air that was there. So they had this thing called sick buildings. They don't talk about that much anymore. But the coronavirus is probably how somebody cough on the 15th floor and then they get circulated up to the 34th floor. And then, of course, being in large groups, places where large groups of people, I think a lot of, major sports events are probably going to cancel. I know they're doing it in Italy, they're doing it in other places around the world. They're just canceling major events where a lot of people get together. And we gave that warning. But yesterday, Tribulation Trump, who was supposed to keep us safe and give us the truth, yesterday I saw this man. He is really like a toddler. He is a sick puppy. Because yesterday he's trying to play it down. Well, it's not so bad in America. We got to contain. Only 5 people are sick now, and probably in a day or so it'll be down to 0. And I have never seen anybody lie. And all those people that are standing behind him, except for that Mike Pence, are going to get up and say, it ain't safe. It's going to get worse. I watched him yesterday with I've seen Trump lie about a whole lot of things. But yesterday saying that there's no fear of coronavirus in America, we got it locked down, what he's trying to do is trying to pump up the stock market. And by the way, the market's down another 500 points. So this is the 4th day of the market in the red. He's trying to pump up the stock market because he knows if the market continues to tank, he can kiss his reelection goodbye. And as the coronavirus spreads even more, he can kiss his reelection goodbye. Because this is the first real crisis that has come down the pike. Anyway, watch this, watch him. Listen, you just listen, because you've been well informed about coronavirus. That's much you know. And watch what he says and see if you believe anything he says. Mr. Engineer, roll clip number 2.
I've just received another briefing from a great group of talented people on the virus that is going around to various parts of the world. We have, through some very good early decisions that were actually ridiculed at the beginning, we closed up our borders to flights coming in from certain areas that were hit by the coronavirus and hit pretty hard. And we did it very early. A lot of people thought we shouldn't have done it that early, and we did, and it turned out to be a very good thing. And the number one priority from our standpoint is the health.
Trump has some pretty stable statements. A lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people say that. People are just learning that. When he says that, he's talking about himself. He said, when he said a lot of people thought I shouldn't do it, he said, I thought I shouldn't do it, but I did it anyway. I think the thing that's going to really get you is when he talks about he only allotted like $1.5 billion to $2.5 billion to handle this, and Chuck Schumer is asking for $8 billion. This is really hilarious. But watch him. He's really, this boy is really serious. He don't really care about the coronavirus. He don't care about people dying, getting sick. He's trying to keep the stock market from tanking. And everything he's saying is trying to say, it ain't bad, it ain't bad, it ain't, a lot of people don't think it's so bad. Go ahead, Mr. Engineer, keep it going.
Safety of the American people, and that's the way I viewed it when I made that decision. Because of all we've done, the risk to the American people remains very low. And we have the greatest experts in the world, really in the world, right here. The people that are called upon by other countries when things like this happen. We're ready to adapt, and we're ready to do whatever we have to as the disease spreads, if it spreads. As most of you know, the level that we've had in our country is very low, and those people are getting better, or we think that in almost all cases, the better are getting. We have a total of 15 We took in some from Japan. You heard about that, because they're American citizens and they're in quarantine. And they're getting better too. But we felt we had an obligation to do that. It could have been as many as 42. And we found that it was just an obligation we felt that we had. We could have left them, and that would have been very bad, I think, American people. And they're recovering. Of the 15 people, the original 15, as I call them, 8 of them have returned to their homes, to stay in their homes until fully recovered. 1 is in the hospital, and 5 have fully recovered. And 1 is, we think, in pretty good shape. And it's in between hospital and going home. So we have a total of, 15 people, and they're in a process of recovering, with some already having fully recovered. We started out by looking at certain things. We've been working with the Hill very, very carefully, very strongly, and I think we have very good bipartisan spirit for money. We were asking for $2.5 billion, and we think that's a lot. But
you think that's a lot?
Democrats and I guess Senator Schumer wants us to have much more than that.
$8 billion.
Normally in life, I'd say we'll take it. We'll take it. If they want to give more, we'll do more. We're going to spend whatever's appropriate. Hopefully, we're not going to have to spend so much, because we really think we've done a great job in keeping it down to a minimum. And again, we've had tremendous success. Tremendous success beyond what people would have thought. Now, at the same time, you do have some outbreaks in some countries. Italy and various countries are having some difficulty. China, you know about where it started. I spoke with President Xi. We had a great talk. He's working very hard, I have to say. He's working very, very hard. And if
working hard doing what?
Can count on the reports coming out of China, that spread has gone down quite a bit. The infection seems to have gone down over the last 2 days. As opposed to getting larger, it's actually gotten
Mike Pence looks like a bat.
One instance where we think we
bad eyes. Look
at Mike. Somewhat reliable, it seems to have gotten quite a bit smaller.
Look down, Mike. Do something.
With respect to the money that's being negotiated, they can do whatever they want. I mean, we'll do the 2.5. We're requesting 2.5. Some Republicans would like us to get 4, and some Democrats would like us to get 8.5. And we'll be satisfied whatever it is. We're bringing in a specialist, very highly regarded specialist, tomorrow, who works actually at the State Department. Very, very tremendously talented in doing this. I want you to understand something that shocked me when I saw it, that I spoke with Dr. Fauci on this, and I was really amazed, and I think most people are amazed to hear it. The flu in our country kills from 25,000
really
people
a very poor
to 69,000 people a year. That was shocking to me.
To say, well,
so far, if you look at
kill as many people as the
15
flu.
People,
if it kills anybody, Trump, it's a tragedy.
One is
orange-head orangutan.
One is pretty sick, but hopefully will recover. But the others are in great shape. But think of that, 25,000 to 69,000. Over the last 10 years, we've lost 360,000. These are people that have died from the flu, from what we call the flu. Hey, did you get your flu shot? And that's something. Now, what we've done is we've stopped non-U.S. citizens from coming into America from China. That was done very early on. We're screening people, and we have been at a very high level, screening people coming into the country from infected areas. We have in quarantine those infected and those at risk. We have a lot of great quarantine facilities. We're rapidly developing a vaccine, and they can speak to you. The professionals can speak to you about that. The vaccine is coming along well, and in speaking to the doctors, we think this is something that we can develop fairly rapidly, a vaccine for the future.
For a year and a half,
and coordinate with the support of our partners. We have great relationships with all of the countries that we're talking about. Some it's a fairly large number of countries. Some it's one person. and many countries have no problem whatsoever, and we'll see what happens. But we're very, very ready for this, for anything, whether it's going to be a breakout of larger proportions or whether or not we're at that very low level, and we want to keep it that way. So we're at the low level. As they get better, we take them off the list, so that we're going to be pretty soon at only 5 people, and we could be at just 1 or 2 people over the next short period of time. So we've had very good luck. The Johns Hopkins, I guess it is a highly respected, great place. They did a study, comprehensive, the countries best and worst prepared for an epidemic. And the United States is now, we're rated number 1. We're rated number 1 for being prepared. This is a list of different countries. I don't want to get in your way, especially since you do such a good job. This is a list of the different countries. The United States is rated number 1.
All right, trash this guy. Listen, I covered the Ebola virus under the Obama administration. I don't know if you remember, there was a doctor that came in from Africa, one of the countries of Nigeria. Was it Nigeria, Kenya? And he's living right here in Harlem, up on the west side of Harlem, northwest side of Harlem, up 140th Street, up in the area once referred to as Sugar Hill. And he attended a bowling alley out in Brooklyn, which was very strange. This is a guy supposed to be a medical doctor, and he was at this very seedy bowling alley where, gangsters and low-life people hang out to do drug deals and prostitutes. And I guess this doctor did not want to, I don't have his name right handy, but I covered this under the Obama administration, under the Ebola outbreak. And he also attended a Starbucks right up the street from where we are here on 125th Street. And you know that Starbucks has a zillion stores in China. They've closed down every store in China. That is going to be a major economic loss. And I don't know how they're going to recover from that. But anyway, this doctor who's supposed to be this high-class doctor who came in from Kenya, right, as an American citizen, had contracted Ebola. And they had asked him, well, where have you been? Because we need to know everybody's been in contact with you. And he was out in this very seedy bowling alley, which really is a bowling alley. It's an exchange place for hustlers to come and prostitutes hang out. And they had to go out there and then go to the bowling alley and round up all the gangsters and prostitutes. It was a very embarrassing time. Anyway, I think he recovered. He lives up on 147th Street here in Harlem. The thing of it is that one of the things that you'll see that's going on in Italy and Iran and in China and other countries is that they're doing testing. You know how they put that temperature gauge to your forehead to see what your temperature is, and then if you got a temperature, then they figure that you need to go in for closer observation. There's no testing. There's not one place in America where there's testing. Now, we know that Americans have been around the world. They've been in China. We got those isolated in that quarantine camp down in Alabama. But Americans have traveled all over the world. They're coming and going all the time over the past month, but there's been no testing. So we don't really know how widespread coronavirus is. The only way we know is when somebody gets sick to the point where they then diagnose it as coronavirus, and you may have a lot of doctors and nursing treating people in hospitals without the proper, protective gear. And, I'm praying that this virus doesn't get worse, but I'm not praying all that hard because I just see this as another part of the tribulation, and I don't know if God's going to stop it. He will. It'll be what it will be. Let's put it that way. I do want to do everything I can to protect the people of ATLAH and those of the elect globally, and I will do that. I'll give a word. When God wants you to know something about how to protect yourself from a coronavirus, he'll speak to me, and I will tell you. So rest comfortably in that. Rest comfortably. The Lord will speak to me, and I'll tell you how to protect yourself in this high pandemic season. But one final thing I'd like to say about here in New York, the subways, I heard someone say the other day, if you get on the train, try to stay your distance between somebody else. You catching the subways in rush hour, you are packed in like sardines, and people are coughing and sneezing, and on the subways in the morning. If the New York City subways have to shut down, if there's ever one one coronavirus person seen here in New York, and they start shutting down the subways and office buildings and shutting down the schools like they're doing in other places. Like in Italy, they're shutting down all the schools. In China, the school's been shut down for weeks. If that happens here in New York or Los Angeles, we could be in for a very rough time. I'm going to go to my prayer closet, and I believe the Lord will tell us how to survive this. It may get worse, and a lot of people are saying it's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. But I'm trusting God will show us how to protect ourselves. Do we need to stockpile food? I don't have that word yet. But the moment I get something, I'll tell you. So that much you can absolutely stomp down trust. Praise Almighty God. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.